And now for the next item on our agenda. The NSC Executive proposes a vote on the following motion: that as a prominent symbol of the apartheid era, the colors, emblem, and the name of the Springboks be eliminated immediately. And that all sports teams representing South Africa shall be known forthwith as the Proteas. Now, comrades, we will submit this motion to a hand vote, and in the event of a close count, we'll go to a written ballot. All of those in favor of eliminating the Springboks, raise your hands.
We should at least include the Minister of Sport.
No.
I strongly advise against doing this, especially on your own. It gives the impression of autocratic leadership. You risk alienating your cabinet and your party.
Your advice is duly noted.
Madiba, the people want this. They hate the Springboks. They don't want to be represented by a team they cheered against all their lives.
Yes, I know, but in this instance, the people are wrong. And as their elected leader, it is my job to show them that.
You're risking your political capital. You're risking your future as our leader.
The day I am afraid to do that is the day I am no longer fit to lead.
At least risk it for something more important than rugby.
Tell the boys I want to go to Easters very fast.
Brothers, sisters, comrades, I am here because I believe you have made a decision with insufficient information and foresight. I am aware of your earlier vote. I am aware that it was unanimous. Nonetheless, I believe we should restore the Springboks. Restore their name, their emblem, and their colors immediately. Let me tell you why. On Robben Island, in Pollsmoor prison, all of my jailers were Afrikaners. For 27 years, I studied them. I learned their language, read their books, their poetry. I had to know my enemy before I could prevail against them. And we did prevail, did we not? All of us here, we prevailed. Our enemy is no longer the Afrikaner. They are our fellow South Africans, our partners in democracy. And they treasure Springbok rugby. If we take that away, we lose them. We prove that we are what they feared we would be. We have to be better than that. We have to surprise them with the compassion, with restraint and generosity. I know all of the things they denied us. But this is no time to celebrate petty revenge. This is the time to build our nation, using every single brick available to us, even if that brick comes wrapped in green and gold. You elected me your leader. Let me lead you now.
So what we just saw is Morgan Freeman playing Nelson Mandela doing a speech. What is he trying to achieve here?
He's trying to convince the sports authority to not change the color of the national rugby team's uniform.
And why did the sports team or the administration want to change the color to begin with?
Well, as it happens that Nelson Mandela's election has given the blacks a lot of hope to see a change in the country that they have lived in, in all these years. They have the behavior of few whites has turned the blacks against the entire white population.
Yep.
And they want to change this now. And by targeting a sport that the whites enjoy so much, they feel that they can bring about this change.
Did people listen?
Well, essentially, he just got 12 votes, so.
Not that many. So, how did he implement what he proposed if not many people listen? And I'm wondering if being black helps him.
You see, people elected Nelson Mandela because they believed in him. And yes, here, being black really helped his cause because people, one, they could associate with him. Secondly, Nelson Mandela was a person who stood by his ideals, stood by his principles, even though he spent more than 25 years in prison, and he still believed in them when he came out. So that was a big that really helped his cause to be elected as their leader.
It's one thing people admire someone and follow them, but it's another thing that the people actually follow their visions, and in this case, work with their perceived enemies. How do you think Nelson Mandela has done so successfully to make it happen?
Right. So I'll ask you a question before I answer
Okay.
that. If you were in Nelson Mandela's shoes at this point in time, where he is right now in that movie, and if you had to make a choice, would you go to the blacks or will you go take the agenda to the whites?
I would take the agenda to the whites because that's their sport, rugby, and the whites seems to be more influential.
Right. So you see, that is where Nelson Mandela stands apart from the rest of
Okay.
us. He went and approached the blacks rather than the whites because he
Right.
understood that if he takes this idea of changing the color of the uniform of a sport that the whites enjoy so much and have enjoyed for the past so many years, he will drop in a hint to the whites that things are going to change now. For them, it's not going to be the same country that they have lived in, that they've enjoyed all their lives. It's going to change now that he's here, and it's going to be what the blacks it was kind of a fear that the whites had once Nelson Mandela was elected, and by Mandela understood that by going to the whites and propagating this idea would only aggravate that fear of being sidelined in their own country. And he does acknowledge to the blacks that they have been treated not they have been treated really bad all this while in the apartheid era, but he also tells them that this is not the time to settle scores with the whites, and it is time for them to work together and move ahead.
I see.
Yeah, and further, it is his idea is to bring both the communities together to take the country forward, and he wants to propagate the idea of two people, one nation. He doesn't want either of the communities to lose their individuality. Rather, he wants them to work together and work towards a common cause. He also invites to propagate that the idea that he's equally um, interested and equally concerned about the white population. He invites the captain of the rugby team to his office, who is a white, and
Yep.
he shares his passion for the sport with him, and he tells them that he really believes in him and his team.
Structural conflict, the theme that we're discussing here, seems to happen all the time, and especially in mergers and acquisitions in an organization when two companies have to be forced to work together. From the video and what we discussed, I feel that there are two things that could avoid those conflict and resentment. One would be the top management of each company need to be on the same page, and they need to inspire their people. And once they are on the same page, then the big company will also will encourage the smaller company, engage them in, and then to come up with the common goals to work with. And with the decentralized authority approach that is in place, the employees will feel more empowered to look beyond their little issues, I mean the smaller issues, and look at the big picture, the big issues that the new company is forming. Right? I learned a lot.
Here we are at the end of our video. We have analyzed 3 different situations and a few possible ways to manage conflict. In France, we have seen how your conflict handling intentions will strongly depend both on the level of stake of the party involved and on the level of conflict of the interest. In the office, we have analyzed a situation where the conflict is caused merely by personal variables. And finally, in Invictus, it's the system itself, the different traces and the past experiences related to these differences that actually create a conflict situation. So, what have we learned about conflict? The major learning is that conflict are not a good or a bad thing in absolute terms. It's the way you manage them that can actually make the difference. Conflict can lead to growth and positive change when handled appropriately. Believe it or not, to have a conflict within a group signifies that group is healthy. When conflict is allowed, it means there is room for differences of opinions within a group and hope for a resolution that might lead to a better situation. Not to mention, for a group to come out of a conflict situation, it will make the bond within that group much stronger. This is the kind of conflict that you want to keep in a group to stimulate growth. Thank you very much for your attention.